One day, Israel's new king, Ahaziah, fell through the latticework of an upper room at his palace in Samaria and was seriously injured. So he sent messengers to the temple of Baal-zebub, the god of Ekron, to ask whether he would recover. But the angel of the Lord told Elijah, who was from Tishbe, "Go and confront the messengers of the king of Samaria and ask them, 'Is there no God in Israel?' Why are you going to Baal-zebub, the god of Ekron, to ask whether the king will recover? Now therefore, this is what the Lord says. You will never leave the bed you are lying on. You will surely die." And so it seems like almost because of that, God's coming in and saying, well, if you would seek me in this, I might heal you. But you're going to a totally different God. You clearly don't have faith in me or anything that I can do. Therefore, I'll leave you to this useless God who's not going to be able to heal you. What's up, cool people? My name's Matt. Welcome back to our Bible study. So we're at 2 Kings chapter 1, and 1 Kings was essentially talking about the different kings of the separated kings of Israel and Judah. I think it actually started off with Solomon and the kingdoms being combined still, but then after him there was a split. So then there was Judah as its own separate kingdom, and then Israel, which comprised like all the other tribes. And that was its own kingdom then. Israel has had no godly kings. Judah has had a few. And this is going to be continuing on from the last ones we heard of. I can see verse 1, it's talking about King Ahab. That was the last king over Israel. The, bigger, I presume a bigger kingdom. Last king I remember it mentioning for Judah was Jehoshaphat, who, was fine, worshipped God, maybe had a couple of shortcomings as most of the kings do, but it's not like everything that he did was wrong and he completely, ignored God. Elijah, I see a mention of here with the section title. He's a prophet of God within the northern kingdom of Israel, which pretty much means he's one of maybe a handful of people that actually follow God around there. And, he prophesies and says some things will happen. He has shown to the people that God is powerful and worth worshiping, but because of the ungodly kings, that hasn't really amounted to a ton. But we'll see how things develop from there. That's about all the context I'm assuming that would be relevant before we hop in. So, let's see what we got here. 2 Kings chapter 1. After King Ahab's death, the land of Moab rebelled against Israel. One day, Israel's new king, Ahaziah, fell through the latticework of an upper room at his palace in Samaria and was seriously injured. So he sent messengers to the temple of Baal-zebub, the god of Ekron, to ask whether he would recover. But the angel of the Lord told Elijah, who was from Tishbe, "Go and confront the messengers of the king of Samaria and ask them, 'Is there no God in Israel?' Why are you going to Baal-zebub, the god of Ekron, to ask whether the king will recover? Now therefore, this is what the Lord says. You will never leave the bed you are lying on. You will surely die." So Elijah went to deliver the message. Okay. So, like I said, the kings of the northern kingdom of Israel have not followed God. They have not worshipped God. They have not sought counsel from God. They have occasionally gotten word from God that, hey, such and such is going to happen. And if you do this, you'll succeed in battle or different things like that. But, like, that was always God interjecting himself into the situation. So, unsurprisingly, the current king of Israel doesn't really seek after God. And thus consults or is looking to get word from a totally different God that was never the God of their people to see whether or not he's going to recover from this, accident that injured him so seriously. And so it seems like almost because of that, God's coming in and saying, well, if you would seek me in this, I might heal you. But you're going to a totally different God. You clearly don't have faith in me or anything that I can do. Therefore, I'll leave you to this useless God who's not going to be able to heal you. So then we get to verse 5. When the messengers returned to the king, he asked them, "Why have you returned so soon?" They replied, "A man came up to us and told us to go back to the king and give him this message. This is what the Lord says, is there no God in Israel? Why are you sending men to Baal-zebub, the god of Ekron, to ask whether you will recover? Therefore, because you have done this, you will never leave this bed you are lying on. You will surely die." Forgive me if it seems like I kind of glossed over that. It's literally the exact same message from verses 3 and 4. Anyway, continuing on. "What sort of man was he?" the king demanded. "What did he look like?" They replied, "He was a hairy man, and he wore a leather belt around his waist." "Elijah from Tishbe," the king exclaimed. Then he sent an army captain with 50 soldiers to arrest him. They found him sitting on top of a hill. The captain said to him, "Man of God, the king has commanded you to come down with us." Alright, gonna pause there for a sec before we see how Elijah responds. So the messengers deliver this message. The king asks who he was and finds out that it's Elijah who sent this message to his messengers. And so because of the kings of Israel not following God, they are often at odds with Elijah, who does worship God and is a prophet of God. I mean, since they don't follow God, God often has messages like this for them, so they kind of view Elijah as nothing but bad news. Even troublemaker in some ways, potentially. And so it's not totally stated what the motivation was, but it says the intent is to arrest Elijah. So clearly he's not just wanting to be nice. Clearly the king is not wanting to just be nice with Elijah. He doesn't like what was said. There's a note there. It says it could be that this phrase could be read as "he was wearing clothing made of hair," which is quite a bit different than he himself being hairy. But still, I guess whether it be his own hair or animal hair, that was something that stood out about him and apparently helped make him recognizable to the king. So, army captain goes to arrest Elijah, tells him the king has commanded Elijah go with them. And then we get to verse 10. But Elijah replied to the captain, "If I am a man of God, let fire come down from heaven and destroy you and your 50 men." Then fire fell from heaven and killed them all. So the king sent another captain with 50 men. The captain said to him, "Man of God, the king demands that you come down at once." Elijah replied, "If I am a man of God, let fire come down from heaven and destroy you and your 50 men." And again the fire of God fell from heaven and killed them all. Okay, so clearly Elijah doesn't want to go. I mean, if he gets arrested, he's not, like, his prophesying ability is going to be hindered significantly. Not to mention, like, early on, he performed a miracle with essentially bringing a widow's son back to life. And he obviously wouldn't be able to do that kind of thing amongst the people if he's in prison. And invoking the name of God, he's like, alright, well, if I'm following God, who you should be worshiping, then God, bring fire down and consume these men who are trying to take me away. And it happens twice. Then we get to verse 13. Once more, the king sent a third captain with 50 men. But this time the captain went up the hill and fell on his knees before Elijah. He pleaded with him, "O man of God, please spare my life and the lives of these, your 50 servants. See how the fire from heaven came down and destroyed the first 2 groups. But now please spare my life." Then the angel of the Lord said to Elijah, "Go down with him, and don't be afraid of him." So Elijah got up and went with him to the king. So, because this man pleaded with Elijah for his life, God was merciful, apparently. It also makes you wonder if, because this guy is scared, and also, like, having this general sort of attitude about him, clearly, wanting to not get on Elijah's bad side, maybe things will go better for Elijah with his detainment, shall we say. So, Elijah goes with him to the king this time. And then verse 16 says, "And Elijah said to the king, 'This is what the Lord says. Why did you send messengers to Baal-zebub, the god of Ekron, to ask whether you will recover? Is there no God in Israel to answer your question? Therefore, because you have done this, you will never leave the bed you are lying on. You will surely die.' So Ahaziah died, just as the Lord had promised through Elijah. Since Ahaziah did not have a son to succeed him, his brother Joram became the next king. This took place in the 2nd year of the reign of Jehoram, son of Jehoshaphat, the king of Judah. The rest of the events of Ahaziah's reign and everything he did are recorded in the book of the history of the kings of Israel." Alright, so it doesn't really say what exactly happened to Elijah other than he, says God's word to the king again. And it comes to pass, and then he dies, his brother becomes king, and that's all we get for that for now. Alright, so real quick, I just wanted to... Hebrew says Jehoram, variant spelling of... Okay, but I guess maybe they spelled it like this to avoid confusion with this king, who was son of Jehoshaphat, reigning in Judah, whereas this guy became king over Israel. Different kingdoms, not wanting to confuse the two kings with each other at this point. Alright, so, oddly enough, the first chapter of 2 Kings seems to have more to do with Elijah than the actual king, although Ahaziah was involved, so I guess there's that. Once again, another short reign of a king in Israel, only like 2 years. Or, did it say it was 2 years? I don't know. Anyway, Elijah basically tells this guy that he's not going to recover, and he doesn't. And minor spoiler alert, this is kind of the last big prophecy that it mentions Elijah having, unless it talks more about him in future books of the Bible. Maybe I shouldn't assume too much. My memory's not that great as to what all happens in each book of the Bible. But anyway. So, yeah. Not really a whole lot else to that, other than, I guess, like, you know, just all the more reason, evidence to, you know, make sure you're seeking God in what you do rather than other things. Because God's the only one that can really help. I mean, yeah, people might be able to help some situations, but as far as, like, any sort of supposed supernatural entities or anything like that, God's really the one that's ultimately, you know, in control of and can, you know, affect any of it. But anyway, so, as always, like and share if you enjoyed the video, subscribe to the channel to see more videos as I post them. Look down in the description for links to social media pages and all sorts of good stuff like that. And leave comments down below there with any thoughts you have. Or questions or anything like that. But anyway. Yeah. Hope you're all doing well. Hopefully I'll see you soon for another video. But whatever the case is, till next time. Stay cool, people.